Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 22nd of June and I welcome you all to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So friends, in the today's video, we'll discuss the entire analysis of the newspaper. We'll take all articles along with the background and the potential way forward in articles will also be taking up. And I would also like to tell you that you can download the synoptic notes of the session from our Telegram channel. Link for the Telegram channel is given in description box in YouTube. Now, first of all, before starting up with the detailed discussion, we take an overview of the newspaper to understand that which articles are actually important in the today's newspaper. So you get a idea as how to identify the relevant issues. Now here we have the Delhi edition. First page, Supreme Court denies relief to ED in Tamil Nadu minister's case, leave it to High Court. Now guys, please don't follow these particular issues for the exam point of view, because these happens to be more of a political issues, not important and relevant for the examination. Modi lands in US capital to meet Biden today. Okay, so we have seen that the Prime Minister is on a visit to US where technology and the defense ties would be discussed. So we'll see what important things would come. Okay. Then further moving on, we have these advertisements, and in city section we largely have regional issues which are not important for the examination. And if you are having some different edition of newspaper, let's say Hyderabad edition, Bengaluru edition, so this regional section would be different in your newspaper, but largely the regional news, political news, crime, law and order related news are mostly there. So nothing is important. It is filled with the political issues, regional issues, and then advertisements. So directly we'll be coming on editorial, and in editorial first article is more HIT than miss in India Nepal ties. So with respect to the India Nepal issues, we'll take this article with respect to exam. Then on side, Manipur government decision to extend net shutdowns lack merit. So we have seen that from more than from past 1 month, there are the conflicts going on in Manipur, largely because of the scheduled tribe status that was proposed by the Manipur High Court for Metis. Other tribals have not liked that particular idea, and because of that conflicts and crisis going on, net shutdowns were imposed, which has been said it's not very much democratic. But again, both the sides can be there in this particular issue. On one hand, it is said that to stop the fake news, disaffection, to deter the anti-social elements, these kind of things have to be done. But on another hand, it is said that it is not very much good. One important thing, guys, you need to understand. Fine, just one thing in this entire issue, or whenever the internet shutdowns, etc., they come, just remember one thing. There is one judgment, Anuradha Bhasin case. Anuradha Bhasin judgment. Okay, so in this Anuradha Bhasin case, Supreme Court held very clearly that indefinite suspension of internet leads to the violation of fundamental right of speech and expression. So internet suspension is against the fundamental rights, Anuradha Bhasin judgment. So whenever this issue comes, remember this particular judgment. Okay. However, moving on, then we have a spare a thought for psychiatric caregivers too. A good article with respect to the examination. We'll take this article. Fine. Then poor living conditions have exacerbated the effects of the heat waves. So guys, basically as the summers have begun and heat waves are there, it is leading to a lot of fatality. It is leading to mortality of so many of the people, particularly people who are poor, who cannot afford the air conditioning and other cooling appliances. Okay, so it has partly to do with the poverty, poor living standards also. Then rethink the retention of sedition. We'll take this particular article. Recently, Law Commission's 279th report was published. So in this direction, this article is given. We'll take it up. Then UAPA fiasco in Telangana. Okay, the gender gap in clinical trials and disease funding. Okay. Now, basically, guys, the article is talking about that. Okay, trialing in trials. Okay, basically it is being provided this particular thing, that a disease which affect men more, they received relatively higher funding than the diseases which are affecting the women more. For example, breast cancer. Breast cancer affects the women more. Okay, so these diseases are given the less importance and less funding. So basically here the data etc have been given in this particular respect. Then coming to text and context, will US Fed resume the rate hike cycle? Now guys, you need to read this particular article selectively, because the India specific dimension we have to identify it. We'll take what is important things that will be coming up. Then what is the new collective quantified goal with respect to environment? Important article, we'll take it up. Then it is a bibliography article, the art of the indirect and anxiety about empire in Mrs. Dalloway. Okay, like now guys understand, not important article for the exam point of view. So for exam specifically, no need to go too much in detail in this particular article. Then further moving on, after that the Manipur violence and all such kind of things are going on. No, nothing much important here. There is one article, Senate caucus to push for NATO +5 status for India. We will see this particular article with respect to the examination. Then India climbs 8 places to 127, global gender gap report. We'll see this article also. Here MBBS curriculum sees overhaul, time limit for completion of course. Okay, so basically guys, what has happened recently, National Medical Commission, they have suggested some of the changes in the undergraduate medical curriculum. Also they have said, imposed a time limit in completing the MBBS course, fine, 9 years. Okay, and all such kind of things. Okay, again understanding this guys, that you are not required to track too much in detail that what are the changes that have come in syllabus and all these kind of things. For our exam point of view, you are not required to go too much in detail. Then coming to world page, allies vow billions to rebuild Ukraine at London conference. So as this Russia Ukraine war is going on and we have seen a lot of devastation and damage have happened, so the allied countries have invoked the help. Fine. Then Biden equates G with dictators, China protests. So this Russia, now every uh, almost every day there is one column for Russia, China US confrontation going on, and one Russia Ukraine crisis. You are not required to track every day the statements that are given by the leaders every day, these particular kind of evolutionary things. Okay, moving on. Okay, at SPIEF, Putin seeks alternative partnerships. Okay, so SPIEF is a St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, which was held recently in the Russia. Okay, so Russia is also seeking the allies as the US is seeking the allies. Then coming to business page, industry eyes access to Gati Shakti portal. Now this is an important article. We'll take this with respect to the examination. India's Russian oil purchase scale new records in May. So guys, already in 2022, Russia became the largest supplier of crude oil to India, and now we basically we see this particular thing that now in the month of May, record procurements have been there. Okay, then coming to the sports page, nothing important here for the exam. And guys, in the last, even after the sports page, there is one page that is on science. Now, this page often contains some very good articles relevant for our examination. For example, yesterday, there was an article on the Blue Ocean event. However, today's article, remembering Alex Mueller for reshaping superconductors. Okay, so basically this particular article guys is tracking the contributions of the different physicists with respect to the superconductors, okay, and all that kind of stuff. However, with respect to the examination, the substance is not there in this particular article. Okay, so basically the contributions of the physicist, their works, their literature, and all these kind of contributions have been given. Okay, because guys understand this thing that when we talk about the science and technology, the application of science and technology, it is something which is important for exam, and the questions are asked the core physics and all such kind of things, okay, are actually not very much important for the examination. So that is all about it, and now let's take all the relevant articles one by one in detail. So this is the synoptic notes that you can download from our Telegram channel. Fine. So every class we start with the GS quotation. So today we'll take the quotation from Mr. Kofi Annan, okay, former United Nations Secretary General. He says, gender equality is more than a goal in itself. It is a precondition for meeting the challenges of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. So guys, today, even yesterday, there was a global gender gap report was also released. So on that particular thing, when we talk about the gender equality, it is not just a social priority, but it is also an economic and political priority, because without the gender equality, you cannot meet the challenge of reducing poverty. You cannot bring the sustainable development, even the good governance cannot come. So, gender equality is social, political, economical priority for the governments. Okay. So, this idea we can use in GS paper number 1 as well as GS paper number 2, social issues and social justice. Social issues, social justice, even women related issues are separately mentioned in GS paper number 2 as well. So, we'll take all these things. Now, moving on to the first article for today. So, this is the first article, that is, what is the new collective quantified goal? Now, first of all, what is utility of this article? So, this article will see with respect to GS paper number 3 environment. GS paper number 3 environment. Even this article can also be seen with respect to the climate diplomacy. Climate diplomacy. Fine, GS2, GS3, both in this sense the article is important. Now, first of all, before going on in this particular article, let me tell you some of the basic information, background information that you need to that you need to know first. Basically, guys, there is a principle of CBDR, that is the common but differentiated responsibility. As per the principle of common but differentiated responsibility, it simply means that tackling the climate change, it is a common responsibility of all the countries of the world, but at the same time, this responsibility is differentiated, means developed countries have to contribute more because they were the historic polluters, and developing countries need not to do that much. Developing countries will also ensure they are doing a lot of efforts, but their responsibility will be less compared to the developed countries. Now, on this particular basis, guys, since 2009, in Copenhagen, there was this principle of climate financing that was born. Now, what is climate financing? Climate financing means that the developed nation, that is, the developed nation will contribute money, will contribute finances to the developing nations so that they can invest in clean energies, so that they can invest in mitigation, okay, so that they can invest on other climate fronts. So, money is to be given, okay, as per the climate financing. Now, it was agreed that $100 billion by 2020 should come from developed countries to the developing country, and this $100 billion was to given every year. So by 2020, ensure that every year you are giving $100 billion. Developed countries are giving it to developing. Now, basically, guys, as this particular issue is going on, okay, the countries have discovered this particular thing. That this money is not that sufficient. We need even more money, and for that particular thing, the idea of new collective quantified goal was actually born. Okay, now what is this new collective quantified goal? I will just discuss it in 1 minute, but let me tell you first that why today the article on new collective quantified goal has actually come. What is the context now? So context goes something like this, guys, that last year COP27 was held in Egypt. Okay, this year COP28 would be held in Dubai. Okay, now what are the COP stands for the Conference of Parties. So there was an agreement that was signed in 1992, UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Under the UNFCCC, the countries come every year together and they see that what should be done to stop the climate change, what their efforts that they have done in the past they have yielded to. Okay, so all the discussions on the climate front are done in this Conference of Parties, which is an annual meeting that is held in the different countries. For example, COP26 was held in Glasgow, COP27 last year was held in Egypt, okay, and the COP28 this year 23 would be held in Dubai. Now, before the COP, the member countries, they come and they discuss that what would be the agenda in the coming COP. Okay, for example, what will be the agenda in the COP28? So that particular political agenda was recently discussed in a separate meeting, that was the climate conference that was held in Bonn. Okay, so recently what happened, just a minute. So recently, what happened? The climate conference was held in Bonn, Germany. Okay, Bonn Climate Conference. Now, this particular conference was expected to outline the political agenda for COP28 Dubai, as I already told you. Now, what is this new collective quantified goal? Basically, guys, we have discussed that in 2009 it was agreed $100 billion per year would come. But around 2015, there was a different understanding that got developed. And that understanding was this: actually, $100 billion per year is insufficient. It is insufficient and it is very less money. We need more money. And it was provided that actually there might be need of even trillions of dollars for mitigate the climate change. And therefore, a new idea, that is the idea of the new collective quantified goal, was born. Now, it was provided that by 2025, we will fix a different number which or different amount of money that is actually needed to deal with the climate change. Now, up till now, no official estimates have been there, but it has been said that in order to deal with the climate change, in order to deal with the climate change, just a minute. So it has been said that in order to deal with the climate change, you need, just a minute, yes. It has been said that you need at least $4 trillion to $6 trillion per year. Fine. $4 trillion to $6 trillion per year. This is the money that actually is needed today to meet with the climate change. Now, this particular number was agreed in Sharm el-Sheikh implementation plan. What is the Sharm el-Sheikh implementation plan? So last year when the COP27 was held in Egypt, so there this Sharm el-Sheikh implementation plan was brought, and it was said that today $100 billion is not sufficient. We need this much amount of money, and this much amount of money should come. Okay, and this goal of bringing this much money, it is the national collective quantified goal, and it has been provided that by 2025, the developed countries should agree to this higher limit, that is $4 to $6 trillion per year. Now, basically, guys, the developing countries are the ones which are majorly putting forward this particular demand that you have to give more money, $4 to $6 trillion per year. Developing countries say this particular thing, that today when we see the scientific evidence, okay, it is required that ever more funding is actually needed. If you remember, yesterday we have discussed one particular article where it was said that by 2030, entire Arctic ice would melt away. So these efforts, okay, so at the pace at which the climate change is happening, we need that particular amount of money. Moreover, developing countries, they also have a concern. They say this thing that even $100 billion that was promised till 2020, they have not actually been given by the developed country. It has been said that in 2020, for example, out of the $100 billion that was promised, only $83.3 billion were given. Now, this $83.3 billion data is given on the basis of a report by OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. But as per many of the independent think tanks, it is said that this $83.3 is an inflated figure. It is inflated by more than 200%. And it has been said that there is too much dishonest and shady reporting. Actually, it has been said that money has not been given to the developing countries. Moreover, it has also been said, there was a study by Center for Science and Environment, and it says that actually just 5% of the climate finance that is coming, it comes from the grant. Now, grant is that money which you don't need to return, and only 5% money out of $100 billion, 5%, that is around $5 billion, they are coming by grant, and other money is coming through loans. Okay, loan equity which burden the developing countries. Okay, soft loans are being given, and these loans have to be paid back. Okay, so how it is the basically how this particular thing is fair? So it has been said that actually the developed countries have not delivered on their promise till now, and now they need to take the new goal, that is a national quantified collective goal. Okay, and this particular year in COP28, it would be the priority to, number one, reach on actual number, that how much you have to give under the national collective quantified goal. Second, by what time that money will be given. And third, whether that particular goal is a collective goal on all the developed country, or whether every country will also be given their sub target, sub goal. For example, let's say this year we reach a target that, okay, $4 trillion are to be given every year. Okay, so is it 4 trillion on all the developed countries, and then they will see how which country will give, or we will decide that for, okay, out of $4 trillion, let's say 100 billion on US, okay, 50 billion let's say on UK. So how that particular thing is to be decided. Okay, and this money that will come, it will largely be going on the issues of mitigation, adaptation with climate change, loss and damage. Now, this loss and damage concept actually got finalized in COP27 last year. Loss and damage. Loss and damage means that there are certain countries which will face a permanent damage to their economy. For example, let's say there is an island nation who largely depends on tourism. But as the sea level will happen, some of their tourist destination would completely be lost. They'll go under the sea. So they will face a permanent damage. So loss and damage fund is to compensate for the actual damages that will come to the countries because of the climate change, because of the sea level rise that will happen. Fine. So these are all the issues with respect to this national collective quantified goal that has come. Okay, just in one line I am explaining it again, that national collective quantified goal, it is a new climate financing goal that has to be achieved, which is higher than the existing target of $100 billion per year. Even that $100 billion has not come. Okay, I hope that you have understood it. Now moving to the next article. India climbs 8 places to 127 in global gender gap index. Okay, now basically guys, first of all, what is the global gender gap index? So global gender gap index is an yearly report that is released by the World Economic Forum. Okay, it is released by the World Economic Forum. Now when we talk about the World Economic Forum, it is a kind of a think tank. Okay, now in the global gender gap index, actually there are 4 pillars on which it is seen that whether the women are being given equality, whether the women are being given parity on par with the men or not. So 4 dimensions it is seen. For example, economic participation and opportunity, whether it is there for women or not. Educational attainment for the women, that data is taken. Health and survival for the women, and then the political empowerment of the women. So these are the 4 pillars. Within that, there are the sub targets also that are there, but you are not required to go too much in that type of detail. So on those 4 pillars, find women's status in different countries is seen, and then the countries are given a particular ranking. Now, this particular year's global gender gap index provides this particular thing, that India was ranked at 127 out of total 146 countries. Okay, now first of all, it is an improvement for India. Why? Because the last year 2022 global gender gap index, India's rank was 135. So from 135 our rank actually got improved to 127. So it is an improvement. Now here we will be taking up the key highlights, that where India actually improved, where India actually declined. Okay, all such kind of things will take. First of all, first finding, India actually has closed 64.3% of the overall gender gap. So we have seen 4 categories below. So on all those 4 categories, 64.3% of gender gap has been closed. But at the same time, on economic participation, India has not been able to improve that much. Just 36.7% parity or equality has come in the economic participation and economic opportunity. Guys, there are many issues that we have. For example, issue number 1, female labor force participation rate is very much less. And if I give you the data, according to the periodic labor force survey data, which was released a few months back, the latest data, female labor force participation rate in India is 25.1%. 25.1%. Now, why women are not participating in labor force? Because women-oriented jobs providing safe environment to women are not there. Often, many number of times, the employers, they don't prefer the females. So on economic opportunity, we have not achieved the parity. Just 36.7% parity has been received. This is something which is responsible for the poor ranking of India. Then we have attained parity. This is a good thing. So green means positive, red means negative. I hope you'll understand. So points in green means good things. Point in red, scope of improvement. We have attained the parity in enrollment across all the level of education. Okay, enrollment of women in primary education, secondary education, higher education, it is on par with the male. This is a good thing. Now, if we just put the rank in perspective, Pakistan ranked at 142. Fine. Bangladesh actually has got a very good rank, that is at 59. Okay. And particularly, guys, just to make you things understand, Bangladesh performs very good on political empowerment, because we see that Sheikh Hasina, okay, has been the leader leading the country for a considerable period of time. So political leadership has helped Bangladesh to get a very good rank. China at 107, Nepal at 116, Sri Lanka at 115. Okay. Likewise. Now, which is the country which is the most gender equal? So, the country which is most gender equal is Iceland, and Iceland has been the most gender equal country for the 14th consecutive year, and it has closed, and the only one to have closed 90% of the gender gap. Okay. Now, then secondly, there is improvement in the wages and the incomes that is going to the women in India. This is improvement, but the share of women in senior positions, in the technical roles, it has dropped significantly. Okay, so these are certain things. However, on political empowerment, India has registered 25% of parity, and out of total number of MPs that we have, it is saying that around 15% of MPs now in India, they are the women. So these are some of the takeaways from the World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Index. One thing, guys, understand this particular thing, that as we talk about these reports, these data, they can be quoted in your answers related to the women issues, and always it depends that how much data, how much facts, and how much authenticated information you are providing, which will help you in fetching good marks. So please put these particular references in your answers. Now, moving to the next article, will US Fed resume the rate hike cycle? Okay. Now, we'll see this particular article with respect to the GS paper number 3, issues related to Indian economy. Okay, issues related to Indian economy. Now, a question might come in your mind that, sir, it is about the USA. How Indian economy is related with this article? We'll try to see how Indian economy is related with this particular article. First of all, guys, you are not required to go too much in detail in this particular article, just a two-liner concept that we need to see, and then we'll see the implications. Okay, now see this particular thing. Fine. So first of all, let me tell you some of the background information. Guys, what has happened? Step number one, COVID came, and as COVID came, lockdown was imposed, and as lockdown was imposed, countries, they went in a type of a recessionary phase. And when our recessionary phase comes, what happens? The countries, they give the fiscal stimulus. They will be pumping a lot of money in their economy so that the economic activity could be revived. But as more and more money supply will be increased in the economy, what will happen? Inflation will come. The same thing happened with the US. And in 2020, 21, 22, we have seen this particular thing, that USA faced worst inflation in last 45 years. Okay. Now, when the inflation comes, what happens? The central bank will go for the tight monetary policy. And as the part of the tight monetary policy, what will happen? They will increase the interest rates. So that taking loan or borrowing money becomes expensive. Okay, that happens. Now, US Federal Reserve has also done the same thing, and it has taken the rate hikes. Okay. And guys, basically we see this particular thing, that 10 consecutive interest rate hikes have been imposed by the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is the Central Bank of America. So as in India we have RBI, in America they have the Federal Reserve. So 10 times they have hiked the rate. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that this thing will control inflation. This hiking the interest rate will control inflation. Good. Okay. But at the same time, this particular thing will impact the growth. it will impact the growth. Because if borrowing the money will become very much expensive, then how the industries will expand their business? It will impact the growth. Okay, so this is always a issue that will come. Now, after the 10 rate hikes, whether the Federal Reserve will increase the interest rate, yes or no, that is something that is a question. Now, basically, it has been provided by the US Federal Reserve that as of now, we are not increasing the interest rate, but we will see. We cannot commit that in the future also. In the future also, will not do this particular thing. Is it clear or not? We have to check that. We have to see that. Okay. So, this is all that has come in this particular direction. Now, guys, let's see this particular thing. Okay. uh, there is one thing I usually I never take these particular things, but there is one guy, ADG Don. Hi Pallavi, आप कैसे हो बोलो. Okay, DP change कर लो. Dear, whatever your name is, I have wondered that why you are wasting your time here on this particular platform. Okay, if you are getting carried away with these kind of issues, okay, or these kind of things, these shallow things, you are getting concerned and you're wasting your time in writing these kind of things, you should go and pursue this thing altogether. Fine, why you are wasting your time here? Okay, and if you are thinking that you are pursuing the goal here which others aspirants are doing and you can do these things, then you are the most mistaken person in this world. Okay, so guys, I don't understand that why the aspirants often they don't have their priorities corrected. Okay, so basically the type of basically these cheap tactics that are often taken by the aspirants, I find them really amusing, that how these kind of things are something which people do and they live by that. Okay, anyhow, moving on, let them do this. US federal, okay, so we have discussed this particular thing, all the issues we have discussed with respect to the USA. Now coming to the India, the impacts on India. Now coming on the impacts on India. Now what is the impact on India? Let's understand this particular thing. And the impact is something which is very amusing. Let's understand this thing. Okay, actually guys, in 2020, you might be knowing this thing already, that what happened, Indian stock market performed really good. Why Indian stock market performed really good? Now see, first of all, the stock market of a country and the economic progress of the country, they go hand in hand. If economy is doing good, stock market will go up. If economy is doing bad, stock market will go down. In 2020, lockdown was there in India also. Economy was not doing good, but the stock market was doing good. How? It is because that the foreign portfolio investments, a lot of investments from India was from USA and other countries were actually coming in India. Now, how the stock markets behave? If a lot of people will buy the share, its price will go up. So from USA, a lot of money, or from the developed countries, a lot of money was coming in India through the FPI, foreign portfolio investments. Okay, as they are demanding the shares, the share market of India was going up and up. Now, why they were coming in India? Because guys, at that point of a time, USA was giving the fiscal stimulus. USA was giving the fiscal stimulus, and basically, as part of the fiscal stimulus, when you give, interest rates are actually also very much less. So growth was not there in USA. So the capitalists were bringing the money in India. Okay, good. But now what has happened? Now what has happened? The USA has reversed their policy, and as now they are increasing the interest rate. Why they are increasing the interest rate? It is a part of their tight monetary policy. And as the interest rates are being increased into the USA, so the investments that came in India in 2020, now they are going back to US, because US also they can invest. Okay, US also the interest rates are increasing. And in 2022, this particular issue also happened. In 2022, this particular issue also happened, that a large a large money investment that came in India, it went back to the US. Now understand, if further Federal Reserve increases the interest rate, then a lot of capital will again go to US. So this will be the impact that would be there. Okay, so guys, I hope that you have understood this particular article. Now moving on to the next article. Industry eyes access to Gati Shakti portal to boost capex in connectivity. Sir, please increase audio voice. Guys, please confirm that if audio is low. I think audio is clear. I can see here also. Okay. Dear, please check at your end also. Okay, industrialize access to Gati Shakti portal to boost capex in connectivity. We'll see this particular article again with respect to GS paper number 3, infrastructure sector, infrastructure and Indian economy. Issues related to the infrastructure and Indian economy. Okay. Now, what this particular issue is all about? First of all, guys, let's understand a little bit of basic information. So basically, what happened? India announced the Gati Shakti initiative. India announced the Gati Shakti initiative. The Prime Minister announced it in his Independence Day speech. And as per this Gati Shakti initiative, 100 lakh crore rupees will be invested in the infrastructure development across the country. The money would be invested in port, highway infrastructure, all types of the infrastructure projects. Now, basically, guys, whenever we talk about the infrastructure, always one issue comes that clearances are often not given. Okay, for the infrastructure, for example, if you want to build a highway project, let's say you want to build a highway project and that highway project will go from the forest, then a lot of land has to be diverted from the forest and you need the clearance from the Ministry of Environment and Forest likewise. So a lot of clearances are to be taken, and often infrastructure development is not successful because the clearances are not given. Now, basically, government as a part of a governance reform has announced this Gati Shakti Digi platform in 2021. Gati Shakti Digi platform was announced in 2021. What is this platform? In this particular platform, 16 ministries such as the Railway Ministry, Roadway Ministry, Ministry of Environment, they will come together and they will come out with a coordinated approach, a coordinated plan for implementing the infrastructure connectivity across the projects. Roadways, railways, Ministry of Shipping, they will come together and they will create one particular collective plan for the infrastructure development. On that, the drawings, okay, the master plans, okay, all these topographic maps, all these particular things will be available on this particular Gati Shakti platform. Okay. Now, basically, guys, as we talk about this particular thing, up till now, the data of or this particular platform, which contains the information about economic, social infrastructure, information about the upcoming projects, this information is restricted only to the central and the state government agencies. Okay. But the private sector, okay, for example, recently the Confederation of Indian Industries, they have requested the government that please give the access to the private sector also of this PM Gati Shakti platform, because if we know that government is coming out with an infrastructure project at this particular place, we can also design our investment plans. For example, if government is coming at an infrastructure project, what we can do, we can, if we are planning some industries, we can also focus on that particular thing. Now understand this thing, that capital, understand this particular thing, infrastructure development is very important, and if for the infrastructure development, both the public, that is the government, as well as the private sector, they have to invest. Only government sector if it will invest, only government sector if it will be investing, it cannot help. Private sector investment is very much important, and the private sector is saying that if you tell us that where you are investing, we can also come out with our own investment plans. Okay, so it is said that industry is actually hopeful that government will open the access to the PM Gati Shakti portal. Okay, and this will help in even greater investment even from the private sector, Okay, so this is something that is there and it should actually be done also. Now guys, one good thing is that as it has not happened as of now, you can suggest it as a way forward. Is it clear or not? You can suggest it as a way forward in your answers. So that is all about it. Now moving to the next article, spare a thought for psychiatric caregivers too. Now, this article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, issues related to the health, and within the health, issues related to the mental health will take this particular article. Now, Uh, Basically, guys, this article talks about the mental health, and mental health, unfortunately, happens to be one of the most neglected area in India and even in the other countries also. We are concerned about the physical health, but mental care we often don't bother in that particular dimension. And basically, guys, one very important dimension has been given in this particular article, which we usually don't discuss whenever we are discussing about the mental health care. Okay, let's understand this particular dimension. Basically, first of all, guys, according to the National Health Mission data, 6 to 7% of India's total population, it suffers from the mental disorder. It suffers from the mental disorder. It is a huge number. Now, mental disorders or mental health issues have become even more aggravated after the COVID-19, because with the COVID-19, lot of insecurities came. The fear of losing loved ones came. People actually lost some of the loved ones. Then there was the financial difficulty, uncertainty about the future. All these things have aggravated the mental disorders, mental concerns in India. Now, many number of times, first of all, guys, we don't attend the people having the mental issues seriously. Why? Because we fail to recognize that actually it is a disorder, actually it is a disease. We think that when the people are behaving erratically, we say that it is it is it is their attitudinal issue, their attitude is poor, therefore they are behaving like this. They have marital troubles. We say that because of the financial problems person is behaving like this, because of the job stress a person is behaving like this. For example, if there is a UPSC aspirant and UPSC aspirant lately stays aloof, is unexpressive, is not communicating properly with anyone, is too much negative with all of the things, we will say that this person is behaving like this because the person is under a lot of stress of studies and it will automatically go away. But we don't recognize that a person might be facing a mental health crisis, and that person needs a professional care, that person's need a medical attention. We fail to give it. Why? Because we never recognize these things as the medical concerns. In society there is ignorance, then there is also a social stigma also. See, if I have stomach ache, I can tell that I have a stomach ache, people will not even judge me. But if I say that I have some mental issue, people will think that I am retarded, I am lunatic. Okay, I will be not confident in telling. People will not even perceive that particular thing positively. So in our country, the social stigma with the mental health is also very huge. Now, there is one very important dimension that we often don't bother, that is the caregiver's stress. Fine, now let's understand this particular thing. Basically, guys, that when we talk about the India, 90% of the psychiatric patients 90% of the psychiatric patients, they are living with their family. Institutionalized support in India is still missing, and often people cannot pay for that institutionalized care, so they are living with their family. And in India also we find this particular thing that the family's size, it is reducing. We are moving more towards the nuclear setups, and the caregivers to these psychiatric patients, they are, number one, facing a lot of stress. There is a physical stress that they are facing, emotional stress that they are facing, then the financial difficulties that are there. Okay, because okay, financial difficulties that are there. And then when you are living with the troublesome patient, then again these particular things are even more exacerbated. Let's say there is uh, a caregiver who is looking to the patient, and let's say the patient is a husband is having some psychiatric problem. Now the wife will be under a lot of pressure, and we fail to understand that particular pressure. Okay, in nuclear households this is even more, because women often are the caregivers and they face a lot of these challenges. At the same time they also have to balance caregiving to their children. Their own career is also there, child rearing, household chores are there. All these things they have to balance, and there is nobody to support them. So these caregivers stress we are ignoring, and prolonged caregiving and prolonged living with a person who is having the psychiatric challenge, it impacts the psychological well-being of the caregiver also. But we are not very much seriously taking up this particular point. Even even the national mental health program even the national mental health program does not recognizes the care for the caregiver. fine, does not recognize the care for the caregiver. Now, National Mental Health Program, okay, National Mental Health Program, which is a component of the National Health Mission, it proposes the decentralized district mental health program, but the focus is only on but the focus is only on the patient. Focus is only on the patient. Focus is not there on the caregiver. Now, many of the studies have been carried in the developed countries, and they provide this particular thing, that the caregivers are to be given the support, at the onset of the psychiatric illness of the loved one. Now, it has been provided that the caregivers need to be given uh, from time to time, they need to be given counseling, they need to be given some behavioral interventions, okay, that when you feel stress you should do this activity, when you feel emotionally drained you should do this activity. So behavioral intervention is to be taught to them, counseling is to be given to them, okay. There should be the dedicated helplines which the caregivers should be able to reach and should be able to talk to whenever they are facing these stresses. So these are certain things that have to be done. Now, when we talk about, guys, India, in India, all these things are missing. Why they are missing? Number one issue is there, that funding is not there, and the human resource to help the caregivers is not there. Let me give you some data. In India, we have 43 state-run mental health institutions. We have around 3,800 psychiatrists and 900 clinical psychologists. But if we translate it on the population of India, we will get one psychiatrist and one psychologist for every 4 lakh 4 lakh and 16 lakh citizens. One psychiatrist for 4 lakh people and one psychologist for 16 lakh people. Is it sufficient? No, it is not sufficient. Budget allocation is very much less for the health. So the mental health. So mental health happens to be the most neglected area. Okay. Now, guys, second thing is that in private institutions, you can avail these particular services. But the point is that the private health institution, they are very much expensive and are beyond the reach of many people. And even the health insurance often are not covering the mental issues. Okay, the psychiatric issues are not covered under the private health insurance as well. Now, Mental Health Care Act of 2017, okay, it is a positive thing in this particular direction. Mental Health Care Act said that we need to remove the stigma with respect to the mental health patients. We need to treat them on par with the other patients that are there. Okay, it has addressed that thing. And even the Ayushman Bharat Abhiyan, now Ayushman Bharat Abhiyan, under Ayushman Bharat Abhiyan, 5 lakh rupees of health insurance is to be provided to per family. There they can basically mental health issues are also covered there. Okay, this is a good thing. Okay. Then, guys, there are many of the NGOs, for example, Mindroot, Lone Pack, White Swan Foundation. Please use the name of these NGOs in your answers. Now, these are some of the good NGOs which are actually working for relieving the pain of the mental health patients. These are some really good NGOs doing the work in this direction. In your GS paper number 2, self-help group, developmental sector, NGOs, etc. are mentioned. So, for that respect also you can use these references. But still, we need to focus more on understanding the complexity of this issue, and more attention is to be given. So, this is all, guys, about this particular article. I hope that you have understood it. And now, moving to the next article. Okay. More hits than miss in India-Nepal ties. Okay. So, this particular article will see with respect to GS paper number 2, international relations, and within international relation, India-Nepal relations. India-Nepal relations. Okay. Now, recently, guys, we have seen this particular thing, that Nepal's Prime Minister made a visit to India, and a lot of important agreements, important key takeaways were signed when he came. Largely, the cooperation on the hydropower was signed. Moreover, we have discussed all these particular developments in lot more detail when the visit happened. If you are following the newspaper analysis regularly, already we have taken all the key takeaways. Now, what this particular article is actually talking about, the article is talking about that the points where India, Nepal failed to reconcile, that we will see. But just before that, guys, understand that whenever we talk about the India-Nepal has a very special relation, and the relation of India-Nepal can be attributed as roti beti ka rishta. It can be explained as the roti beti ka rishta. What does it means? Roti beti means, first of all, a lot of Nepalese people, they are coming in India and they are getting employment, livelihood in India. That is the roti, means employment. Beti means matrimonial ties also between the India and Nepal people that are there, particularly the people from the Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and basically the lower parts of the Nepal. Okay, there the matrimonial ties run deep and they are for from so many of the decades that are there. So the relation of India Nepal is roti beti ka rishta. Secondly, India and Nepal also in 1950 has signed the treaty of friendship. Then thirdly, guys, Nepal again is a very important partner for India because Nepal acts as a buffer between the India and China. Okay, and fourthly, guys, that for the spiritualism also, the Nepal is very important. There is the Ramayan circuit that is being constructed, which will connect all the places related to the life of the Lord Ram through a train journey, and one of our destination is the Nepal also. Fine. So, on spiritual aspect, on economic aspect, political aspect, fine, social aspect, India, Nepal are countries which are closely aligned. So, recently, Prime Minister made a visit and the hydropower corporation happened. Now, the article is actually giving the reference from 2014. 2014, Indian Prime Minister visited the Nepal, and when Indian Prime Minister visited Nepal in 2014, he invoked the neighborhood first and said that we will be prioritizing development of Nepal, and three areas were focused which India will be helping in, and it was HIT. H stands for highways, highway development, infoways, okay, infrastructure, particularly the telecom, internet, and transways. Okay, so highways, infoways, and transways, largely infrastructure development was something that was focused. But since 2015, India Nepal relations took a downturn, and much of the promises they were not fulfilled. First of all, guys, understand this particular thing. There were many issues. We'll discuss these issues in detail. Now, when we talk about the Nepal, Nepal has a lot of potential to develop the hydropower. Nepal has the potential of developing 50,000 megawatt of electricity through the hydropower. Okay, 50,000 megawatt of hydropower potential. But what is the realized potential? What is the installed capacity? Installed capacity was 1200 megawatt 10 years back, and right now it is 2200 megawatt. 2200 megawatt. So they have not been even you can say that they have not realized the 5% of their potential. Okay, now here India can help. Now India can help. How India can help? India can provide the technical assistance, can provide the finances to the Nepal, so that the Nepal can construct the hydropower projects in their country. Then Nepal can supply electricity to India, because India also needs electricity. Moreover, India is moving towards the India has taken the target that by 2030, 50% of India's electricity will come from the non-renewable sources. So there Nepal can help India. Okay, now this is something that both the countries are targeting, and therefore recently a long-term power trade agreement has been signed between India and Nepal. And this long-term power trade agreement is focusing on the export of 10,000 megawatt of electricity within a 10-year time frame. 10,000 megawatt of electricity will be exported from Nepal to India within next 10 years. India will provide the technical and economic assistance to Nepal, so that Nepal can construct the hydropower projects. This is something that is there. Good thing. But it has been provided that there are certain difficult issues between the India and Nepal, which we have not addressed very carefully. And if we don't address it in the time, then India Nepal will not be able to uh, capitalize on the relation. First issue, first issue is with respect to the Agnipath scheme. So basically, guys, government in 2022 came with the Agnipath scheme for inducting the Jawans into the defense forces. Now, when we talk about, guys, India, okay, we have the Gorkha soldiers in India from the in the Indian Army's Gorkha regiments, and a large number of Gorkha soldiers, okay, particularly from the parts of the Nepal also, they have hailed traditionally, and we have given them the opportunities. But with the Agnipath, the Gurkhas, okay, what will be the now? Now, point is that all the people, most of the people have criticized the Agnipath scheme because the because the Agnipath scheme would be available, okay, just for the 4 years or so. Okay, just a minute. Okay, because under Agnipath scheme, the inductions that will happen into the Indian military will not be the career inductions. Okay, so the impact on the Gurkha soldiers of this Agnipath scheme is a concern. Then second concern that comes here is that the Kala Pani issue, Kala Pani. So basically, guys, the Kala Pani is Kala Pani is a disputed territory between India and Nepal. Kala Pani belongs to India, but Nepal says that no, it belongs to Nepal. And what happened just 2 years back, Nepal released a new map, and in that particular map, Kala Pani, Limpiadhura were shown as the part of the Nepal's territory. This particular thing led to a crisis, and then there was the India-Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship. In Nepal wants that this particular treaty has given more importance to India, and it has actually been imposed on Nepal. So India wants the wants the revision of the Indo-Nepal Treaty of Peace. Okay, and they have made this particular demand many number of times. In 1995, they have made this particular demand, but up till now, the revision of the treaty has not happened. So these are the three issues that are to be addressed between the India and Nepal: the Agnipath scheme and their impact on the Gorkha soldiers. Second is the Kalapani issue, and third is the revision of the Treaty of Friendship. So this is all about this particular article, guys. I hope that you have understood it. And now moving to the next article. Rethink the retention of sedition. Now this particular article, guys, will see with respect to GS paper number 2 issues related to the polity. Now, by the way, we have discussed this issue many number of times earlier also. First of all, what is sedition? What is sedition? So sedition is carried in the section 124A of 124A of the IPC, Indian Penal Code. What is sedition? Sedition simply provides, okay, just a minute. Yes. What is sedition? Sedition provide the section 124A provides that if any person tries to create any disaffection for the government of India, then that particular act will be charged as sedition. You can bring disaffection either by the words or by some other media. Okay, and for sedition, then a particular person could be charged, and the jail term can be given up to 7 years. Now, many number of times, sedition has been used for the political purpose. Many times, the people who have criticized the government, they have been charged with the sedition, and therefore, there are many number of times requests have been made that sedition law should be scrapped in India. Even the Supreme Court of India, in one of a judgment, that is the SG Wombatkere versus Union of India case, Supreme Court very clearly provided that all the state government, central government, they have to keep sedition in abeyance, okay. They should not file any case under the sedition. All the trials going under the sedition, appeal proceedings going under the sedition, they are to be stopped for a time being. So Supreme Court also indirectly has given a hint that the sedition is not a very desirable law in India. Now, recently what has happened, Law Commission has given its 279th report, and in this report they have said that India can retain the section 124A, that is the sedition. Now, this is something which is being criticized by a lot of people, that such things should not have happened. Now, what are the arguments given by the Law Commission? Law Commission says this particular thing, that it is necessary to retain the sedition for ensuring the India's internal security. It has been provided that there is the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967 that is there, which can be used for the national security concerns, but it doesn't covers many of the important dimensions which are actually covered under the sedition. So therefore, the sedition has to be retained. Law Commission says that there is a lot of violence, internal security challenges there. For example, there is a lot of Maoist violence that goes on in some parts of the country, particularly the Chhattisgarh. So in order to deal with these particular issues also, we need to have the sedition law. But actually the point is that Law Commission is not taking the cognizance of this particular matter, that into the last few years there is a significant dip that has come in the Maoist violence. And secondly, there are many times when the law of sedition has just been used for the political purpose. Fine, the law of sedition has been used for the political purpose. Okay. Now, when we talk about the UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and the sedition, that is a section 124A. So basically, section of UAPA includes any action taken by individual association which causes or is intended to cause disaffection against India. Section 124A talks about the disaffection against the government established by law in India. So UAPA uses the word India and section 124A uses the word government established by law in India. This is just the difference between the UAPA and sedition. So point is that one of the law, that is even the UAPA, could actually be used and the sedition might have been erased, but the law commission has not given that particular recommendation. That is all about this particular article. And then guys, this particular article is here that we have Senate caucus to push for NATO plus 5 status for India. No need to go too much in detail in this particular article, just one liner concept. So basically guys, the US is proposing NATO plus 5 status for India. NATO plus 5 status for India. Now what is this NATO plus 5? Basically, in NATO plus 5, the USA recognizes the countries which are not formally the part of NATO. That USA will provide the weapon, USA will provide the defense help to these countries also. So NATO plus 5 is an extended version of the NATO. Right now, the NATO plus 5 partners, who are these countries? Right now, the NATO plus 5 countries, they include Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, Japan, Israel. Okay, these are the 5 countries under the NATO plus 5. Okay, now NATO under okay, first of all, what is a NATO? NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. In the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, there are 31 countries that are there, including 31 countries are there. USA and Canada are the North American countries and 29 countries in the Europe. And these 31 countries say that if any attack on any one of them happened, then they will say that it is an attack on all of them and they will come together. So NATO is a military alliance of these 31 countries. Okay, and India is not a part of the NATO. Okay, under the NATO plus 5, they include these countries also whose name I told you. Now under the NATO plus 5, they want to include India also. But India very clearly and categorically had said that we don't want to join it and we will never join it. Mr. S. Jaishankar had said that this particular type of proposal doesn't applies to India and India is not ready to go with it. Okay, very clearly India has refused it because India doesn't want to be a part of any alliance. Okay, so this is something. And now taking the mains practice question for today. So question says, according to the National Health Mission estimates, 6 to 7% of India's population suffers from the mental disorders. In this context, discuss the steps taken by government to address the mental health in India. GS paper number 2. GS paper number 2. 10 marker question. Okay, that is all about it. I hope guys that you have understood it, and with this we come to an end to the today's news session. So that is all for today, and now we'll meet tomorrow. Till then, please take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.